This is The Road Show, and I'm your host, David Warren. Let's start today's program with some self-reflection. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, what happened to me? I used to be fun. I used to go out with friends. I used to care about life, and now all I want to do is stay home, binge a show, and shut out the world. Or maybe you're thinking, the only thing I know is work. Well, today's topic is about restoring balance in our lives, finding ourselves again. This is Therapy Day with our friend Kimberly Harr, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. Our desire is that you will find hope, help, and healing as you listen. Let's welcome back our friend, Kim.
Hello, David.
Hello, Kim. It's good to have you back on the airwaves of Oasis Radio Network.
Thank you. It is so good to be here.
Well, the last couple times we were together, we covered in depth your book, your first book called Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts by you, Kimberly Harr. I will call you Kim most of the time, but we put the Hardy Har stories on pause because we had so much to cover. But I'm ready for an all-new season of Hardy Har stories. So,
well, I tell you, I've got one. I just got back from a mini vacation, and my oldest daughter asked me if I would join them. They were taking my 5-year-old, my 3-year-old granddaughter to Disney World. And it just so happened my husband Andrew had a work trip at the same time in Orlando. So I thought, this is going to be such a good idea. And I think I began double thinking that the first day after I got in 18,500 steps. And I have never chased so many princesses and characters and Winnie the Poohs. And my idea of vacation was going to be really, gingerly strolling through the park, enjoying it. And I tell you, my daughter was more like a drill sergeant, and she was like, well, at 8:05, Cinderella's on this part of the park. And then, it was like Winnie the Pooh was going to be on the other end of the park. And so I chased, and it was so sweet, though, because my granddaughters are in that kind of almost like that magical phase of believing, princesses. And she went up to Elsa, the character. And she has seen her at different parks, and Elsa said, so what's your name? And my little 5-year-old granddaughter said, Elsa, don't you remember me? And I tried to convince my granddaughter I had been a princess. I'm like, well, honey, Grandma was a princess. And she was like, no, Grandma, you are not a princess. But so it was a busy vacation. It was a wonderful vacation. But I need a vacation from my vacation now because after 3 days, I got Disneyed out.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was, grandkids usually like to work the grandparents.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I can only imagine how many stores there are with Disney merch along the way between rides.
Yes.
So, did you spend a few bucks?
Well, a little bit. My 3-year-old granddaughter would look at me and she would say, my budget? Because my middle daughter had given my oldest granddaughter, who's 5, for her birthday, she had said, you can go to the toy store, but I'm going to give you a budget. And so they were trying to explain how you only get a certain amount of money, spend it wisely. And so all my 3-year-old granddaughter took from that was she wanted a budget. So yes, Grandma did spend a little bit, especially on the day when Grandpa was working and I was there by myself. There were some necessities.
What she meant by that, Kim, was your budget.
I know, right?
Not her budget.
All she had to do was give me those little big eyes, and she would hold something and just smile real big.
And you said she's 5 years old.
The oldest one is 5. The one with the budget was 3.
What does a 3-year-old want at Disney World?
Everything.
Okay.
We went in the Disney store and they wanted the costumes. Her favorite is, there's a little, I don't know, it's a little stitchy animal, little kind of a purple one. My son told me it was called Angel something or other. And so she wanted the little stuffed animal, and then they wanted the little, Disney figurine princesses. I mean, they wanted it all. They wanted everything.
All right. And you survived.
I survived. The last day, I checked out early and I said, Grandma needs to go have supper with Papa. I took the little boat back to the little hotel and I was like, okay, this is like no kid zone.
So is Andrew Long suffering in such a case?
He is so much better than me. He is so patient. He would hold the grandbabies and we would just sit and wait. And, while my daughter would take the older one on rides, Andrew would just hold the younger one, and he would just, even on the airplane, he was just wonderful with them. Oh, yeah.
Well, you chose well when you chose him.
I did. He is like the closest thing to perfect.
Excuse me?
He is the closest thing to perfect.
Excuse me?
As far as people.
Excuse me?
Okay, David, you're closer.
How long were we going to have to do this game? All right. It only took you 3 tries. Okay. This is going to be an interesting road show. Tell us about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about just the rediscovering ourselves because we get caught in overwhelm. We get caught in burnout before we know it. Overwhelm can lead to burnout. And it sneaks up on us without us really recognizing it. And then all of a sudden, it's a little bit like our engine has seized. And we're like, okay, what happened? And so we're going to be talking about the importance of balance and just really maintaining a full life and being in control of it rather than having life control us.
Love it. Love it. That's today's topic on The Road Show with Kimberly Harr and yours truly, David Warren. I'll take second position to her husband. I understand. Actually, third. God is number one. All right. We'll both be back after this. I'm David Warren here with some exciting news for Oasis listeners. We have a new mobile device app. It's free, easy to download, and lets you enjoy our refreshing music and talk everywhere you go. If you have an Android cell phone, go to the Google Play Store. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, visit the Apple Store and search for Oasis Radio Network. Be an Oasis ambassador and share this news with family and friends around the world.
I came to this place from a dry, thirsty land. I found an oasis of love. Oasis Network.
On today's roadshow, our in-house therapist is back with us. When I say in-house therapist, I don't mean that she's actually our therapist, but she's all of our therapists. Did I say that right? She's a therapist for all of us. How about that? All
Sounds
right,
good.
Just one person.
Sounds good.
We're going to talk about how to find a therapist for one-on-one here before we say goodbye. But today's topic is Get a Life, finding ourselves again after burnout, loss, and life's curveballs. And Kim, tell us about the letters next to your name. I want people to know that you are official before we dive in.
Okay, my letters after my name are LMFT and LPC, which just means I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also a licensed professional counselor.
All right. So I read a little bit from your intro as we kicked off today's program, and you were reading my mail. So if you would read the intro and go a little farther with that, because this is really going to speak to people and they're going to say, you're reading my mail.
Yeah. All right. Well, I called it the wake-up call and what happened to me. So let me just reread what you had, which is, have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, what happened to me? I used to be fun. I used to go out with my friends. I used to care about life. Now, all I want to do is stay home, binge a show, shut out the world, or the only thing I know is work and more work. And so when we're talking about what happened to me, a lot of times we don't even know what happened because, like I said, it really can sneak up on us little by little. And it's not like it's just one big moment that all of a sudden I realize I'm overwhelmed or I'm burned out. Life can be overwhelming. And we go from feeling like we are coping to we stop living. And life just begins to take over, and we get into the monotony of just waking up, doing the same thing day after day after day. Some of overwhelm can be because of things that have happened to us. We've all gone through hard things. We have pain. We go through grief. We may have some trauma. And that can affect us in, losing that purpose, that joy. But then there's also the things that we've done to ourselves. And those are things more like I've neglected myself. I have taken on more than I can handle. I stop asking myself, what is it that I need, what I want, what am I feeling? And we just don't pay attention to ourselves. Sometimes I think also underneath there's the questions of, did I feel like I'm not worth taking care of and slowing down and managing my body? Or at some point, I think we begin to shift and believe maybe this is all there is to life. This is all I know. And so we quit asking and life becomes more of a job.
Or I've created a life in which I feel trapped and I don't know how to get out of this trap.
Right. It's all I know. And so I just keep doing what I know. Now, the good news is that to rediscover ourselves, we just need to rebalance our lives. It's like the tires on our car. We need to do some realignment. It's not like once your tires are aligned, they're never going to get out of alignment. We just need to regularly check and see, how's my life? Is my life in alignment? And that includes things like physically, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, and regularly checking and saying, okay, so how am I doing in each of those 4 areas? Is one area struggling? Is there an area I need to do some readjusting? And if we're always asking ourselves those things, we're going to stay in adjustment.
One of the things you wrote in your intro is that if one of the areas of our life, you mentioned that there are 4, physical, emotional, relational, spiritual. If one area is neglected, the others soon follow. Why is that?
God made us spirit, soul, and body, and we don't separate those. And if you can kind of think of it like a chair that has got 4 legs, if one of those legs is unstable or is getting wobbly or it's getting weak, the other legs are going to begin leaning that way. It's going to take energy from that. And, for an example, if I neglect my physical health, maybe I'm running on caffeine, I'm drinking coffee, I'm not getting enough sleep, I may be going through drive-through, to get my food, so I'm not eating nutritious. It can affect not just my body, but it can affect my emotions. I can be irritable.
I feel bad about myself.
Yeah, we feel bad about ourselves. It affects our relationships because I can't be present in my relationships. It affects my spirituality because all of a sudden, even that begins to feel like a chore. So every one of our physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual areas, they are all interconnected.
Well, sometimes we feel like we're on a merry-go-round, and it's going so fast that we don't want to jump off when it's going this fast because of the dangers. But you and I will be talking about ways to slow that merry-go-round down and to a point where you can stop and get off and rest a little bit.
Yeah, you have to. If sometimes we tell ourselves, I can't get off, but if I don't get off, then there's danger. Then it's like going on a roller coaster that never ends, and I'm getting so sick, and I'm getting so whipped around in whiplash, and it's like, okay, how do we slow this down to get off?
How often does this topic come up with you and your patients or clients?
It actually comes up often, and I think it really comes up with the high-functioning people. Because high-functioning people tend to ignore their own signs of stress and overwhelm, and so they take more on. They take more on. They take more on. The other population that I see really dealing with this is what I call the helper hearts. And that is the people that are, hey, I'm needing to help everybody else. And so I'm not checking in with myself. I'm more checking in with how you're doing. And so I need to help you.
It's interesting. You do not know this yet, but one of my questions for you is, are there reasons why certain ones of us tend to live overwhelmed? And when I was reviewing my notes, I wrote A-types or perfectionists, and then I also wrote people pleasers.
Right.
So both sides of the equation here.
Yes. This is really big for the codependent population because I can only be okay if you're okay. And now moms fit into this really well because when you've got children, multiple children, if you're not careful, you are only as happy as your happiest child is the saying. And so you're kind of looking to see, how can I juggle? How can I help? Who needs me? How can I make life better?
All right, let's role play a little bit here. So I make an appointment to see you. And this is why I'm seeing you, because I feel overwhelmed and I'm approaching burnout if I'm not there already. And so then you're asking me about myself, and then you notice that I'm a A-type personality, which I am, David Warren, and that I have perfectionistic, or if that's a word, a perfectionist, if that's kind of the person that I am. So how would you work with me? And then we'll talk about the people pleaser person.
I think the biggest thing is learning is, okay, one, the perfectionist is a little bit of the all or nothing personality. It's a little bit of everything has to be the best. And if it's not the best, that means it's the worst. And so I would probably work with you on finding that middle ground of what is that good enough? What is the perfection I'm trying to hit? And is it really ever attainable? Because most perfectionists, that's like a moving measuring stick. And so where you think you're getting close to it being perfect, you're still going to poke holes in that, and it's still not going to be good enough.
Can a perfectionist person, an A-type person, can we become addicted to overwhelm?
Oh, yeah, because I think that there can be almost like a badge of honor. And whether it is the perfectionist, whether it's the helper heart, it can be this badge of honor of, hey, everything I do is this grandiose thing. And so I actually get my identity from it. I don't know how to do things and it not be perfect. But like I said, that measuring stick moves so much that it's like, okay, who's the one that's going to decide what perfect is?
What about for those who aren't necessarily perfectionistic, but they don't feel good about themselves if they're not working?
Well, I think that, again, that's a part of we lose our identity in who we are, and we become human doings instead of human beings. It's, if I can achieve this, then I have value. If I get these words of affirmation from other people, then I have value. And so if I'm not doing, I've lost my identity, and I've begun to put my identity in the things I accomplish. It may be my work. It may even be my children. So it's more really looking at, who am I apart from all these roles? Who am I apart from these measuring sticks?
What did you call the people pleasers? You called them heart something?
Helper hearts.
Helper hearts.
Helper hearts. It's,
That's a nicer way to say it.
It's kind of funny because I recently spoke at a women's event, and I introduced myself as, I'm Kim. I'm a grateful believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, and I struggle with control. And I said, or as I like to call it, helping. So I think the helper heart is, there's going to be a certain population that is more drawn. It's usually a big heart of love out of control. And I notice the areas where people need my help, and so I help. And then they're so thankful for my help that, again, that fuels my worth. And the opposite of that is I focus on others because I can't tolerate how I feel if I see other people struggling or in pain or overwhelmed. Then I take it upon myself of, how can I help them not be overwhelmed? But then I'm the one that becomes overwhelmed.
So for our A-types, it's learning when something is good enough.
Absolutely.
And with our heart helpers or people pleasers, it's probably an issue of needing to create boundaries.
Creating boundaries and recognizing everybody else's problems aren't necessarily mine. I don't have to make them mine.
We talked about a budget earlier, talking about budgeting money. What about budgeting time for our heart helpers?
I
Or helping hearts?
Yeah, the helper hearts.
Helper
I
hearts.
think budgeting time is, and it's not even just the time, but it's what time am I actually spending on myself? Because helper hearts typically don't look at their own hearts very often. They're busier. It's like they may have this feeling of I need to be needed. And so my radar is looking for who is it that needs help. And so it becomes a way of life in that no matter where I go, what I do, I can be at the airport and I can find somebody that needs my help. And so it's really just kind of saying, okay, what's my role in this and what's not my role? Have I been asked to do these things or am I just offering this? And so you're right. It's very much about boundaries.
All right. So how do we know when we've gone from being overwhelmed to being burned out?
I like to say overwhelm is a little bit like the check engine light on the car. Overwhelm is, I'm feeling stressed. I've got lots on my plate. Burnout is more like my engine has seized. Burnout is a little bit more like when I get the feeling of I stopped caring.
So that would be a sign.
A sign is I kind of feel like I've stopped caring, not because I'm not kind, but because I'm running on empty. I have nothing left to give.
Would feeling numb be a sign of being burned out?
Absolutely. Feeling numb, feeling detached, like I'm just watching things happen, but my emotions aren't there. If I'm feeling dread, if I'm beginning to, like when it comes to work, if I am dreading, oh my goodness, I just can't go into work again. Dread is a red flag of burnout. Burnout also is you can have all the vacations in the world, you can get all the sleep you need, but that's not going to fix burnout. So it's not just a matter of I just need to get some sleep or I just need to take a vacation. Burnout is a little bit more tied to I've lost the joy. I've lost, my excitement for life.
So what do you tell your clients that are burned out?
Well, I think, first of all, we've got to decide, one is like you said, what's the difference between overwhelm and burnout? And one of the first things we'll do is, okay, what are the symptoms? What are the red flags? Why do you think you're burned out? But when is the last time you remember not being burned out? When's the last time you remember being excited and having joy and not being able to just wait for the next thing?
How about this one? When's the last time you took a vacation?
Me, last week. And I
Well,
got exhausted and overwhelmed.
Don't ask me that question.
Yeah, well, you know what? I know the answer to that question. But sometimes when we don't take vacations, we can tell ourselves, I can't take a vacation because I'm going to be so far behind that we exhaust ourselves just thinking about how hard it's going to be when we come back. So we stop taking any kind of rests and we begin to live, eat, sleep, whatever it is we're doing. It's always on our mind. And it's hard to separate that from our thoughts.
What are the dangers of staying in burnout without doing something about it, do you think?
Well, I think the biggest dangers are it affects us physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. Physically, when I'm on burnout and I push myself, and this is one of the things I have to watch with myself with overwhelm because I have a very high stress tolerance level. And so I can keep thinking, hey, it's not bothering me. I can do it. But just because I can do something doesn't mean it's good for me to do it. It doesn't mean I should do it. So it's not saying, hey, do I have it in me to do it today? It's saying, okay, wait a second. If I'm not going to steward my body and take care of it, I'm actually affecting like my immune system. Our body will cry out if we're busting through every one of those boundaries, our body's going to cry out and it's going to say, pay attention. And there's going to be symptoms that can come on our body. And, sometimes especially in the Christian world, we can say, well, we're rebuking any symptoms and we're not going to be sick. And our body is saying, hey, I need rest. And so we have a part in that. I have to be wise with how I steward my body. So relationally with burnout, the danger is in burnout, I probably more isolate because I don't have time for my friends. I don't have time to go do things. So my friends quit asking me to go out, or I isolate because I'm so tired and I'll tell myself I just don't have the energy. Spiritually with burnout, it can be, praying is a chore. I go through the motions of listening to praise and worship music, and I can sing them in church, but they're just words. And it's really, I've lost that want to.
So how do you as a therapist help turn that ship around for people? Or maybe we should take a break and come back and you share some of those tools. Should we do that?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Well, Kim Har is with us, Kimberly Har. She's a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And our topic today is Get a Life, Finding Ourselves Again After Burnout, Loss, and Life's Curveballs. I'm David Warren, your other friendly host today, and we will both be back after this.
I'm Karen Jensen Salisbury, one of the hosts you hear on the Oasis Network Roadshow. For 35 years, this 1 hour of the day has inspired and motivated you, our listeners, with thousands of stories of people whose lives demonstrate the truth that with God, all things are possible. It's an hour that you should make a part of your day, Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.
Kim Har is with us today, a.k.a. Kimberly Har, the author of the book Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, Reclaiming Your Life After Grief, Loss, or Trauma. This is out on Baker Books, wherever books are sold. And Kim, you read this book on Audible, so it's on audible.com, again, under your full name, Kimberly Har, Haar. So I know you are still in the throes of talking with other media groups about your book. Anything you want to share?
Well, it's just been really exciting. I think the next ones coming up are keep your eyes out for more on Daystar, on 700 Club. And I would say if a listener has any kind of ministry groups, especially women's ministry groups, I actually do go to women's ministries and speak at women's ministry groups. So I would love to go to churches, contact me through my website.
All right. Something I want to put a plug in for right now is that our parts 1 and 2, we did 2 interviews. The first one was your story of trauma.
Right.
And then grief and loss as a result of that. And then the part 2 was we talked about tools for growth and healing, and we're going to circle back to those because many of those are the same for grief, loss, and trauma as they are for overwhelm and burnout. So we're going to talk about that. But those 2 interviews are combined under the clever title in our Roadshow archive section called Roadshow Host Kimberly Har Reveals Her Deepest Hurt. I thought that would get somebody to click on it. That's called clickbait right there.
I was going to say, it sounds like the Star magazine or something. You too want to know.
Well, the numbers say they did want to know. It's been a very popular 2 interviews combined. Again, it's called Roadshow Host Kimberly Har Reveals Her Deepest Hurt. And we kick off with your story. It's really great. That's in the Roadshow section of our website, oasisnetwork.org. I want to go ahead and mention your website. It's KimberlyHar.com. Again, Har is Haar, KimberlyHar.com. Everything you want to know about my friend and co-host today, plus her new book, Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts. Okay, so you did share tools for growth and healing. And when I saw the bullet points for today, which we're talking about getting a life,
right?
In case we've lost ourselves, we're trying to find ourselves again, get back to a place of feeling balanced and happy in life. Okay,
Right.
I noticed that many of the tools that we covered in part 2 of our discussion about your book happen to be ones that we can incorporate if we're feeling overwhelmed or, God forbid, burned out.
Right.
So let's dive into that now. Let's talk about your different tools. I'll just read some of them and then have you comment.
Sure.
First of all, you suggest that we say yes to one thing that brings us life.
Right.
So give us some examples.
Well, I think this goes back to the all or nothing thinking. And in my counseling room, sometimes I will have people tell me, I don't have time to do anything that's going to bring me joy or that's going to, bring me back to life per se. And I talk about we're just looking for one small one. Because, and I think I've said this before, the old game that we used to play in school, Mother May I, where we would, kind of like tag. We would ask the mother, can I take these steps towards her so we could tag her? It was kind of a silly game now when I think of it. But if we take small steps, we're going to get to where we want to be. And so this is going to be more things like what's something I can do, what's not something I can't do. It may be going for a walk. It may be, I don't have 30 minutes, but maybe I have 10. It may, and so what happens is even when you do what you can, you'll notice it begins to shift the atmosphere. And it begins to let you know what? No, this is something that you want more of. Going back to what we were talking about when I went to Disney World and we walked tons of steps the first day, I actually came back thinking, okay, I don't necessarily want to walk that many steps, but I want to get out and I want to be walking more and moving more because it felt good. And so just doing those small things, it may be simply going outside, sitting in the sunshine, getting some vitamin D rather than sitting on the couch on the inside. It's looking for those small moments and what can I do in my small moment.
I wear a ring that tells me when I've been sitting too long and tells me it's time for me to stretch my legs. My phone dings and tells me it's time to move around a little bit.
Being a therapist, I sit a lot. I sit for an hour with a client and then I get up for 5 or 10 minutes to get my next client in. So a large part of my day is sitting. And so one of the small things that I do is I went home and I'm like, okay, I may not want to go for a long walk, but I just invested in one of those kind of like the vibration plates, the shaker plates that kind of just brings movement. And I'll stand on it for like 20 minutes and it just helps get some circulation in my body. And then I usually go for a walk. But it's really doing something small.
All right. We're talking about overcoming overwhelm and also burnout. So another one of your tools is that we need to nourish ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that food?
It can be food, but it doesn't have to be. It's really more like feeding our spirit, feeding our soul, feeding. So we're looking at it in all different directions. It may be food.
What nourishes you?
What nourishes me is taking the time, because I very, very often I am in a hurry. I kind of, my husband laughs, I'm always on the go like the Energizer Bunny. And so for me, what nourishes me is to, whether it's sit down, go sit outside on my back patio and have a cup of coffee and just sit there. Or I'll bring my Bible out there, not with a goal of I'm going to read through the Bible in a year, not with okay, this is my time to do devotions, but I may just sit out there and just open usually Psalms or Proverbs and just sit there and meditate on it.
Are you saying we should do something that's not on our checklist?
Yes, because if we're not careful, we make even our fun downtime, okay, what do I need to accomplish? That's why, when people talk about the Sabbath and taking time to rest, so many people use a Sabbath rest as, okay, now this is my day to catch up on my chores at home. And so I'm really not resting. And so it's really giving ourselves permission that I don't have to show anything for my time. My husband will sometimes ask me, especially on a day when I'm not going into work, and he'll say, well, what are your plans for the day? And I love saying, I have no clue. I have no clue, and that's okay. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask myself throughout the day, what is it that I need to do? And that's really nourishing yourself.
All right. Our topic today is Get a Life. Finding ourselves again after burnout, loss, and life's curveballs. And we're getting some great tools from our in-house therapist, Kim Har. And another thing that you suggest is that we reach out to others even when it's awkward. And I can think of an awkward thing. There is a lady that crosses my mind that I think I need to call her. It has been so long.
Yeah.
And it's going to seem weird how long I have let time lapse since I've reached out to her.
Right. You know, that's when I like to say you just do it. It's like Nike slogan. It's especially when somebody comes to mind. I always say, don't let those moments pass you by, because somebody may come to your mind and it actually may be the prompting of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
But if it has been a long period of time, it's saying, hey, you know, I had a friend that we had been such close friends and time went by and we lost touch. And I was embarrassed to reach out because I felt like I hadn't been a good friend. So you know what?
Well, that's how I feel.
I called her and I said, you know what? It's awkward for me to reach out because I feel like I haven't been a good friend and I'm sorry. And I'd like to, you know, say, can we go for coffee? Can we, you know, she lived out of town. And so I'm like, hey, can we do a FaceTime coffee date? Can we just, you know, let's go sit on our porches in our pajamas and just kind of have a reconnecting. And so it can be awkward, or like when we've been really busy and we have forgotten to nurture our friendships, especially if we're all work and no play, it can be awkward because I forget how to play. I forget how to play. I feel guilty when I'm playing. I'm thinking about other things when I'm playing.
What should I say to myself? I'll be the guinea pig here. I feel guilty for playing right now. I should be finishing that project. I should be working ahead so I won't have such a busy day tomorrow. But I really want to do this thing, like take a walk with a friend.
Yeah.
But I'm having this internal dialogue of, I really shouldn't be home working. So what would you say to me as a therapist?
The first thing I would say is I heard the word should. I should be, which is an expectation. And so I think that there's a part of asking, is this a realistic expectation? I like to equate it to the gas in a car. If I'm never stopping at a gas station and putting fuel in my car, I don't care how far I need to go on a trip or how quickly I need to get there. If I'm not refueling, I am not going to get where I need to be in the long run. My body can break down. I'm fueling burnout. And so when I look at it more as an investment and I say, you know what? I actually am going to choose to do this not based on my feelings. And so it's learning to talk back to your thoughts when the shoulds come and saying, you know what, maybe I could go do it, but I'm choosing that I'm going to invest in this area of my life. And when I come back, you know what, it's going to be with fresh eyes. Maybe I'll actually get more done because I fueled up.
Okay, so there is a shared tool for growth and healing in your book, Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, which again targets people that are trying to reclaim their lives after grief, loss, or trauma. And the rest of us during this particular conversation are trying to reclaim our lives after overwhelm and burnout.
Yeah.
And so one of your tools is to overcome fear. And I thought, okay, I'm overwhelmed. What am I afraid of here? Or I'm burnt out. What am I afraid of here? And then I looked again at your notes, and you have the question, what if I can't get back to who I was? And that resonated with me.
Yep. Well, and so when you said that, when you're like, okay, what am I afraid of with the overwhelm and burnout? I would turn that question back and let me ask you, what are you afraid of?
Oh, okay. Well, I will be hypothetical.
Okay.
And I would say not being able to, well, as program director here at Oasis, that I wouldn't be able to have something on the air on time when we switch to midnight. In other words, not have things ready for the audience.
Yeah. Well, and in something like that, okay, so if you were coming to my therapy office, I would actually ask you, one is the importance of being prepared, because I know you, and you're actually very much like I am, and you are an over-preparer. And you think, if this doesn't work, then what's the next backup? Then what's the next backup? And there's a part of sometimes saying, okay, what is the worst thing that would happen? How often has it actually happened? How often has it happened that you haven't had those things ready? And if instead of it coming on at midnight and it was 12:05. And I know you don't want that to happen, but what's the worst thing that could happen? And sometimes it's facing our fears. Sometimes, our brain says, oh no, this would be huge, this would be terrible. And instead of saying, oh no, it's really beginning to soften that and saying, you know what, I don't want that to happen, but oh well. And so I do what I can. What is my fear? I want to be prepared, so I'm going to prepare. But at some point, I say, this is good enough. And that goes into that A personality, that perfectionist, saying, okay, I've done this, and this is going to be good enough. And if you need to incorporate other people to help you, sometimes it's saying, hey, I'm going to release this responsibility, and would you be willing to be my backup on it?
Great advice. I will take that advice.
Good.
One of the things I wonder sometimes is, I'll use myself again as the guinea pig. The example is, am I overwhelmed or am I making myself overwhelmed?
That's why when I said earlier, I kind of laughed when I was speaking at the women's ministry and I said, okay, I can be a control freak. Sometimes it's because we think, well, nobody can do it as good as me. I need to get this done because I've got this high standard, and so I'm the only one that can do it this way. And we don't think of it as being egotistical. It's just more kind of that thinking of, I need to have some control because I don't like a feeling of powerlessness. And sometimes it's recognizing and stopping and pausing, saying, okay, what is it that I'm feeling in my body? And whether it's feeling powerless rather than trying to push it away.
Anxiety would be mine.
Yeah. With anxiety, a feeling of anxiousness, first of all, the whistles and bells that our brain has, God actually gave to us. We don't want the anxiety to stay in a state of anxiety, but anxiety just says, okay, check on this. Make sure you do due diligence, but let's not live in that state. And so being able to release yourself from that, saying, okay, you know what? What's worst case scenario? I'm not going to be a control freak. And it may be, if it doesn't get done exactly the way I would do it, maybe that good enough was good enough. And when I allow it to be good enough and it doesn't fall apart, I've now given my brain some new information. I've given some new information that said, okay.
It worked out, so
yeah.
Maybe it'll work out again.
Yeah, it still may not have been exactly the way I wanted it, but it worked out. It didn't fall apart. And so now I've got some new information.
All right, Kim Harr is helping us tremendously today. Before we take a break, I think we should kind of loop back to the different areas that we want to pay attention to in our lives, the physical side of us, the emotional, the relational, the spiritual. So we want to be paying attention in these areas because once we've gotten help from your tools or from a therapist, we want to avoid reoccurrences of falling back into overwhelm because our personalities are pretty well formed. And for my type of A-type personality, it won't be too long till I've taken on too much again.
Right.
Or somebody who's, I don't remember that title you used, the people pleaser.
It's
Help
okay.
me.
You know what? You're the A personality, the perfectionist. I'm the helper heart. We represent the two extremes of that.
Okay.
And so even in that helper heart, well, let me go over the red flags because it's not about just catching it once it's there. This is about maintenance. When you think about your car, you're taking it into the shop at 100,000 miles saying, hey, check my tires. But physically, you want to be listening to your body. Red flags are going to be things like constant fatigue, headaches, stomach issues, getting sick a lot, feeling like you can't breathe, stress. Emotionally, it will be more being irritable, maybe snappy at relationships that matter to us, maybe recognizing resentment. Relational is going to be more like I'm pulling back, I'm withdrawing, I have a lack of patience, maybe there's increased conflict. And then spiritual is if all of a sudden prayer is a chore, I have to go to church, I feel disconnected from God, and I've lost all joy in any kind of worship. Okay, you know what? Those are red flags. I need to maybe do some adjusting in those areas.
All right. We're going to take another break and be back with more from Kim Harr. And again, her book is called Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, available wherever books are sold, out on Baker Books. Also on audible.com, Kim reads the book herself. And I want to replug that our parts 1 and 2 are combined as a Roadshow archive on our website, oasisnetwork.org. And that is labeled as Roadshow host Kimberly Harr reveals her deepest hurt. She is Kimberly Harr. I am David Warren, program director here at Oasis Radio Network. I promise you there will be something on the air at 12:05 tomorrow morning, though I can tell you that I worked ahead. But I'm getting lots of help today, as are the rest of our listening family. All right, back for the wrap-up after this. I'm David Warren, Program Director at Oasis Radio Network and one of the hosts of this podcast. All of our hosts enjoy hearing from you, our listening family, so drop us a note. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and you'll receive new episodes on your mobile devices. And now, back to the show. I'm David Warren.
And I'm Kim Harr.
And this has been an interesting conversation today about getting alive. Finding ourselves once again. And a question that I posed in the last segment was based on fear. What if I can't get back to who I was? And I think we all know we're never going to be that 25-year-old again.
Right.
But we want to feel some of the same feelings that we felt when we were 25. And maybe one of those was there wasn't so much care in my life. There wasn't so much pressure in my life. I did things with friends. I had fun. I laughed. I remember taking vacations. And now I don't recognize myself.
Yeah. I think it's important to, rather than compare yourself to a past version of yourself, because like you said, I'm not 25 anymore. I can't keep that kind of a pace. You know, the cares I didn't have then are because I'm in different seasons of life. And I think that, right away, the scripture comes to me that says, forget the things of the past and press forward because behold, I'm doing a new thing. And when we look forward to our lives moving forward, it's not how do I get back? Is who do I want to be? If I want joy, if I want to laugh with my friends, look back as I like to use the example of like your windshield in the car and the rearview mirror. If all I'm doing is looking in my rearview mirror, I'm going to rear end somebody. The rear view mirror in the car is meant to, I'm going to look back, but then my eyes go back forward. So I can look back and say, what was it that brought me joy? And if it was, man, I miss having fun with my friends and laughing and going on a vacation. Okay, so what do I want to do now that is going to be more, who are my friendships? Where would I like to go? So I'm not trying to compete with a past that's past. It's like, let the past be the past and become the best version of yourself moving forward.
I love it. The final tool for growth and healing that I did not mention that I wanted to is you say we should reprioritize what matters most.
Yeah. So often I think that we lose our priorities and it's not even intentional. But I like to say, I think we've all heard the saying that, when someone is at the end of their life, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say, hey, I wish I would have worked more. Or I wish I would have accomplished this thing more. Usually what we hear is about relationships. And so in reprioritizing, I think one is, what is the purpose of our lives on the inside of us? We don't have to discover our purpose. The purpose is already in us. We just have to uncover it. It's our gifts, our talents, what excites us. And when we are doing the things that God has placed purpose in us, it doesn't feel, it shouldn't have to feel like hard work all the time. Prioritizing family and friends, hey, if I'm needing somebody, especially if I need somebody to pray with, who are my tribe to call? And I don't want to have to be looking for them and having nobody there. Mm-hmm. I think of I think it was Field of Dreams movie where they said, Kevin Costner said, if you build it, they will come. And I like to say with your circle of friends and even your family, if you build it, they will come. You're nurturing that and you're nurturing those relationships because that's what's going to keep things healthy. Is looking to see, okay, if I'm spending all my time in one area and I'm neglecting others, it's what's the cost? What am I losing?
All right, I have seen a therapist before, and I know that at the end of each session, which we are coming to the end of our session today, there is typically some encouragement from the therapist, maybe some homework. So in this area of getting alive, finding ourselves again, why don't you give us a challenge or something we can do between now and the next time we talk?
Yeah, I think a homework or a challenge I would give is to take the words physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual, the 4 areas, and ask yourself, what is it that I want in each of those areas? What's out of balance? And focus on the one first that's out of balance. And so if I'm really out of balance and I've got all my work but no friendships, okay, how can I incorporate more friendships and balance and maybe put some boundaries around work? If it's more of a spiritual and I've lost everything in my spiritual life, okay, what's something very small that I can do? Because I always go back to small but measurable steps. Because if you set a big goal for yourself, you're going to give up. But if you can set something really small and say, okay, this is something small that I can do, it's going to shift the atmosphere. It's going to shift your hopes, it's going to shift your excitement, and it's going to give you a light at the end of the tunnel.
Where can someone find a good Christian therapist?
I like to refer to several different places. One is I like to refer to focusonthefamily.com. They have got a referral list of Christian therapists that they vet. They know what these therapists believe, and it is in line with Focus on the Family. The American Association of Christian Counselors, it's aacc.net, is another area that's got a bunch of Christian therapists. You can put in your zip code. Ask your church, ask friends that maybe if they talk about it and, they say, hey, I go to a great therapist, ask, hey, who is it that you go to? Who would you refer? Because I think it used to be therapy and therapists weren't really talked about because it was more of a stigma of there was something wrong with you. And now we're entering a culture where people look at you if you don't have a therapist. And they're like, well, who's your therapist? Mm-hmm. So ask around, get referrals.
Well, our favorite therapist is Kimberly Harr, the author of Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, Reclaiming Your Life After Grief, Loss, or Trauma, out on Baker Books, wherever books are sold. Also, the book is read by Kim herself on audible.com. Again, Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, Kimberly Harr, Haar. And I know that you don't want to be overwhelmed, but after you have exhaled, I think what we have discussed today would make a fabulous book for you to write. I just love the information that we covered together today.
I feel like I've just had a baby with my first book. Let me let them grow a little.
Well, it's just as easy to feed two as it is one. No, I get your point. Okay, Kim, thanks so much. This was great.
Thank you for having me, David.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am David Warren.
And I'm Kim Harr.
And it's been
another great Roadshow.
You've been listening to The Roadshow. If you'd like to write to us, here's our address. The Roadshow, P.O. Box 1924, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74101. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. The views of today's guest aren't necessarily those of this station, but we do appreciate and thank our guest for spending this time with us. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.